Hello viewers, I am Ashok. In this video, we'll discuss environmental impact assessment in brief. Contents would be introduction, EIA development and pollution treatment, abatement, what are the legislations, rules for it that we will discuss here. Now, deterioration of environment due to industrialization was at rise during 1960s. There was rising awareness about environment this time. An author called Rachel Louise Carson, an American marine biologist who wrote a very popular book and very influential book for the environmental sector. And name of that book is The Silent Spring. And other writing by that author has really revolutionized the environmental movement. The impetus for Silent Spring was from a letter written during 60s or maybe some 58 or so by Carson's friend. Her name was Huckins, and describing the death of birds around her property somewhere in US, resulting from the aerial spraying of DDT to kill mosquitoes. This pesticide triggered the environmental movement during that time. Carson wrote that this letter prompted her to study the environmental problem caused by chemical pesticides. The revolution began, and the International Association for Impact Assessment, IAIA, during that time defined an environmental impact assessment as the process of identifying, predicting, evaluating, and mitigating. Mitigating means reducing the biophysical, social, and other relevant effects of development proposals prior to major decisions being taken and commitments made. So, EIA are very unique in that they do not require adherence to a predetermined environmental outcome, but rather they require decision makers to account for environmental values in their decisions and to justify those decisions in the light of detailed environmental studies and public comments on the potential environmental impacts. EIA was introduced for only for big ticket construction projects during 60s. Slowly it developed. In the US, environmental impact assessment obtained formal status in 1969 with the enactment of National Environmental Policy Act NEPA. What we have is Environmental Protection Act EPA. We'll see that also. That piece of legislation is very important. The Indian experience with environmental impact assessment began almost 20 years back, 20, 30, maybe 40 years back now, you can say. It started in somewhere at 75 to 80. And when the Planning Commission was there, now it is called Niti Aayog. Planning Commission at that time asked the Department of Science and Technology to examine the river valley projects from environmental angle. This was subsequently extended to cover those projects which required the approval of Public Investment Board. Till 1994, environmental clearance from the central government was an administrative decision and lacked legislative support. But in 1994, the first time under the Environmental Protection Act 1986, the EIA notification was formulated in India, and it made environmental clearance mandatory for expansion of modernization and setting up of new projects. And we see a lot of amendments. Even EIA methods and rules were amended in 20 or so. Environmental Protection Rules of 1986. If you read Rule 5, Clause 7, which pertains to the impact, there is mention of impact in that. A nation has to industrialize and urbanize and meet the needs of the growing population. Apart from the various legislations, the Central Pollution Control Board, State Pollution Control Board plays very vital role in formulating the uh, technical rules. An environmental impact assessment notification is issued under Section 3 of the Environmental Protection Act 1986. This section is very important, and the previous rule, which I told you, these two provisions are very important. Now, this EIA under Section 3 says or impose restrictions on setting up new projects or expansion or modernization of existing projects without EIA. Section 3 also stipulates that such measures must benefit the environment. Honorable Supreme Court also said, if you really see the decision, for an action of the central government to be treated as a measure referable to Section 3, it must satisfy the statutory requirement of being necessary or expedient for the purpose of protecting and improving the quality of the environment and preventing, controlling, and abating environmental pollution. We do consult, litigate in the domains including matters of environmental monitoring, etc. Thank you. For any query regarding environmental issues, write me at the following email ID.